This is the Coach's Wife Life podcast. I'm Kristen Eargle, your host, a former TV sports reporter and fellow college football coach's wife. I'll go one-on-one with the strong women who are the backbone of college athletics and athletics of all levels. And now, Coach's Wife Life.
This podcast is brought to you by Ruler of Hope. Ruler of Hope is a nonprofit that supports medically fragile children. If you'd like to make a tax-deductible donation, you can use Venmo at Ruler-Hope or online at rulerofhope.org.
Hey there, I'm Kristen Eargle, and we have an exciting podcast ahead. But first I want to talk about something we all know way too much about, moving. Just the thought of that can bring an unsettling emotion. Well, I found a team that can take that load off your plate. It's D1 Relocation. This group can do it all. They can organize your move, coordinate with a moving company, and a trusted real estate agent. They can actually vet key household partners such as schools, insurance agents, physicians in the area. They can even help set up your Wi-Fi and water. It's incredible. So I've come to know this team, which is actually founded by a coach's wife. I think you should check it out, whether you're looking to move now or in the future. It's d1relocation.com. Now on to our awesome podcast. It's my honor to bring Sandra Gonzales on the podcast. Sandra is the wife of Danny Gonzales, head football coach for New Mexico. Sandra, thanks so much for being a part of us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about your husband first, so give a scope of some of the accomplishments that you guys have walked through, entering his third season, right, as a head football coach there.
Coming to his fourth season.
Fourth season. Okay, season 4. You guys have been to a lot of bowl games over the past almost 20 years or 17 seasons there. Now, you were hired back in 2019. And he played there, was a member of the coaching staff. So I want you to take me back to that moment, which I'm sure in the back of your head, you had to have been dreaming, like, if this were possible one day, what would that feel like? So when did you know, and walk me through those first emotions?
I mean, I really didn't know. I mean, I didn't, we were at San Diego State for 7 years. And then, when we left New Mexico, we went to San Diego State. We were there for 7 seasons. And then we went to Arizona State and we were there for 2 seasons. And when it first kind of started, you'd hear the little rumblings of, there's a potential and people are interested. And what do you think about moving back? And we were really happy at Arizona State. We were happy in Tempe. Our son was at ASU and the girls were in school. They were doing great. And so I didn't think a whole lot of it. And then, when it happens so darned quick. He had interviewed, a couple of times and says, I think it went good. I feel like the interviews went well. But, you just don't know until you get that call. And they had called like 2:00 in the morning to tell him that they had the job and they had a few questions for him. And then they couldn't get a hold of our athletic director. He'd fallen asleep, obviously, at 2:00 in the morning. Most people are sleeping. And so it just all kind of happened so fast. And the next morning, we kind of wake up and I'm like, so what's happening? And he was like, I have no idea. I'm going to work and I'll call you. So sure enough, he calls shortly thereafter and he was like, all right, we have the job. I need you to get the kids out of school and meet me at the airport. And I was like, okay. So we flew to New Mexico. They were announcing him at halftime at the basketball game that night. And then the next day was a press conference. And then me and the kids flew home and he never came back.
Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Very, very quick for you. Now, what about outfits? Did you have things on hand? That's always fascinating.
Nothing. So is the funny thing is we left San Diego State and which is, black and red. And then we get to Arizona State. Well, Arizona State's rival is U of A, which is red.
Right.
So I got rid of everything red. Every last stitch of red clothing was out. And so when we get this job, like I said, I had 0 time to do anything. And so I'm searching through my closet. I ended up wearing all black. And luckily it was winter. I had a red scarf. I did have a red scarf and some red shoes. And that's that I wore.
That's amazing.
I think that was the only thing red I owned.
That's hysterical because you have no idea this is going to really happen.
Yeah.
And if you buy the clothes too early, like you're going to end up with outfits that you don't need, right?
Exactly.
So
I feel like you're going to jinx yourself. And, again, this is so new to me. Like, I didn't really know anything. And so luckily, the head coach at, was Leah Edwards, Herm Edwards' wife at ASU. And so I called her and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, I this is so out of my element. So she was like, what's the school colors? And when I said red, she was like, oh, and I'm like, yes, I own nothing red. So
that's awesome. So did you ever see yourself as a coach's wife? Think back where you grew up. Did you envision this life you're living right now?
No, not at all. At all. I mean, I'm a huge sports fan. I was born into a family full of boys. I was the first girl. So I was a huge tomboy, loved sports, loved football, loved baseball, loved basketball. But no, to ever be actually in it like this, never in my wildest dreams.
Okay. How did you and Danny meet?
That's kind of funny. So in 2008, I think, was it 2008? I think it was their last season here at New Mexico. They'd all gotten let go. And I'm a dental hygienist, and Danny came in to get his teeth cleaned. And so it was in 2009, I think early 2009 is when I met him. And I had this big rule, everybody at the office knew, like, I will never, ever date one of my patients. It was just, that's weird and I won't do it. And so they all knew that was my rule. And then he started coming back more. And 6 months later, he came back and then he was bringing me coffee a lot. And so they were like, so what happened to that rule of yours? Like, you don't date your patients. I'm like, I'm not dating him. I'm like, he's trying, but I'm not dating him. And then I finally caved.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. So you've been a coach's wife for how long? I'm not good at math.
We got since like 2011 is when he got back into it. So he was out of coaching 2009 and 2010. And then in 2011, he went back to San Diego State with Coach Long. And we've been in it since 2011 together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, not every day is the day that you're getting ready for the press conference and you're so excited to be having your own program. There's highs and lows. So what would you say is maybe some of the toughest adversity? It could be on the field or off the field that you both have faced. And what did you rely on to get through those moments?
As a head coach's wife?
Either way.
In general. I'd say probably the hardest time for us was when we were at ASU. Danny was a defensive coordinator. His mom had been really sick and she'd went in for a routine surgery. It was supposed to be outpatient surgery, maybe staying one night. And we were on a 4-game losing streak at ASU, and she ultimately ended up passing away. Very unexpected. But that was really hard. It was a hard time, in his career. It was a hard time in, our life. We weren't at home because this is home for him, Albuquerque, where we are now. And so we were in Arizona. It was during the season. So that was a really tough time. And, we just put everything in the Lord. We're big believers. And that's kind of what got us through it.
How do you think it shaped you to go through those moments where you're kind of feeling alone? You're out there in a different state and you're not able to rely on family every day, and you have to put one foot in front of the other and go back to work and get, rally and things like that. How does it change your approach?
Again, I think we have such a strong faith that that's kind of what we put everything into. And at the end of the day, we know that he has it all in control and there's nothing else we can do. And that's really what got us through it.
Now, moving on to coaches' wives questions. A lot of the coaches' wives that we listen to here, I love these because, they kind of get some tips and things we come here for. So there's a lot of assistant wives that are listening right now that would love to be where you are right now. So would you say there's been any surprises to you about being a head coach's wife?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I love the wives. I love, we try and be as inclusive as we can. I want all the wives. So if we have GAs that are married, I want them over at our house. I mean, film, whoever's doing film for us, like, I mean, everybody. So it doesn't just, I don't have our circle just being the 10 coaches. And that to me isn't that's not our staff. That's, those are our coaches, and they're a big part of our staff, but our staff is so much bigger than that. And I like to include everybody. I love it. I absolutely love having them over. They come over, we go swimming. We celebrate birthdays. Usually what we try and do is, because we have so many people, once a month we'll pick a place and we go and celebrate whoever's birthday is that month, and we all go out and have lunch or dinner together, and it's nice.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Now, when I started this podcast, I was thinking about this recently. There wasn't NIL. There wasn't the transfer portal. Like, a lot of things have changed in college athletics in the last couple of years. So how, from your perspective, you're a head coach's wife, you're an FBS, how has it changed your daily life just a little bit, and how, your view of things, and how you operate every day?
It's changed everything, within the game, and just, it's changed everything. I'd say the biggest thing for us is that we always had like the countdown. It's on the calendar. The first Wednesday in February is signing day, and it's been our family tradition that we usually will fly out Wednesday night or else early Thursday morning, and we do Disneyland Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We spend a few days in California, and that's been our tradition since we had the girls.
That's awesome.
And so, and then we were excited because we, got daddy back because recruiting's over, and, now recruiting isn't over. It never ends.
Never over.
No, it's not over anymore. So it's definitely changed, and the whole NIL thing is, it's different, but
to keep adjusting to everything. Yeah. One thing that I've asked several times on the podcast, I feel like another thing that's changed a lot in the industry in the last 10 to 15 years is the impact that social media has had on our profession. And I've asked Mary Beth Smart and Kathy Miles some of these questions, but you have kids that are probably on social media as well. And how do you block out some of the negative things that our husbands, it used to be just in the newspaper, and now it's an everyday thing, and they're tagging an AD talking about you and stuff like that. So how do you handle all of that? How do you block out negativity?
When we first got into it, Danny had kind of always said, you have to have thick skin. You can't read what people are writing. And I've heard everybody say, stay off social media. That's easier said than done. And, I'm very much a part of it. And I'm on social media. I'm always, posting stuff of our teams and our staff and like events that we have. And so it's kind of hard for me just to, stay off of it. But I will say, Danny's always said, have thick skin. And he always tells me to this, which is very, very true. He says, whether they're talking good or bad, at least they're talking. He says, that means they still care. Like the fans still care. He says, at the end of the day, if nobody's talking, that's when you should be worried. And I'm like, that's true. And so I've always just kind of, I try not to, I don't go down the rabbit hole and read. Like if I see that there's an article and it's something negative, I just kind of scroll past it. The one thing I will say that was the hardest was during that time when I had said that his mom passed away. There was a really nice article that was written on social media about, Danny mourning the death of his mother. And it was a really beautiful written article. And I did read it. I read the whole article. It was well done. And shame on me. I did read the comments and they were great, great comments. But, there's always one.
There's always one.
And wrote just something really negative. And I usually don't comment. I did. I was like, I'll comment on this. And I just wrote, shame on you. This article is about my husband mourning the death of his mother. If you want to critique him or criticize him as a coach, do that on a different thread. Yeah. And that was it.
Yeah. Well stated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is it hard to navigate because you have kids that are getting older, helping them through this process of navigating social media with their dad in the spotlight? I mean, positively too. I mean, that would be hard as well.
Right, right. I think both the boys they're not big into social media. Thank goodness. They really just they aren't. Uh, and then the girls are too young and they don't have social media. And gosh, I hope they don't have it for a long, long time. But well, no, we'll see.
Yeah, same here. So
Yeah.
another piece of this is, we talked about it. We feel like we're recruiting our players at all times. We're recruiting high school and transfers and all of that. Do you enjoy the recruiting process? I mean, how much involvement do you have and how much involvement do you involve your own children?
We're all in. And I love it. I enjoy it. The hard part for me is that I get so attached to these families. And then if they don't come to us, I'm like, oh, no. Like heartbroken. But it's attached to the families, it's so much more than just football for us. And I try and go to all the recruiting events, all the dinners, and then usually on a recruiting weekend, one night is hosted here at our house. So we have all the families here, and so they meet our family, and we tell them like, if you have kids, bring your kids, and everybody comes, and it's great.
That's really, really special. As you move through this, has there been something that you've always done in being a coach's wife, something you've made a priority in your life throughout this process to help sustain you as you support him?
I really just try and be all in. I know like I've only been to 2 other schools, right? We're at San Diego State and then we're at Arizona State. And I think everybody has just a different, I think all wives handle it differently. And I'm not saying there's a right way or a wrong way. I just know that the right way for us was to be all in. So I, like now during fall camp is starting next week, and the kids won't see him. He'll be gone in the morning before they get up, and he won't be home until probably after I put the girls to bed. So we really make it a point to go up to his office. We watch practices when we can. I take him up there to eat dinner, and then during the season, every Sunday, we have a family meal after they have practices on or meetings on Sunday. We go and that's kind of what I've just done. I'm all in.
Yeah. Was there a head coach's wife that you kind of looked up to, or one that you've taken some ideas from now that you're a head coach's wife, things you do with the other wives or creating that family dinner night?
Just not really anything that I learned from somebody else, just something that I liked, that I wanted to do. We always kind of said, and then there's been like tons of different things that I've seen and I would talk to Danny about, and he always says, I promise if I ever become a head coach, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. One thing that I would like to say that we do that I had seen years and years ago, shortly after we had, so our youngest daughter, name's Abby, she's 9 years old and she has Down syndrome. And so shortly after her, I had seen something on social media, and Christian McCaffrey and his father, they do this camp. It's a football camp for individuals with special needs. And it was just this really cool thing. And I thought, that is so awesome. And I think at the time, Christian McCaffrey might've been at Stanford. It was before he was in the pros. And I had shown it to Danny, and he was like, that's really cool. And I said, that's awesome. And we do football camps all the time, right? As Division I schools usually will have, they'll have the high school camps, and they just have like all these different camps. And so I just told Danny, like, this would be really cool if we could have a camp for individuals with special needs. And so when we got here, the first year we got here was COVID, so that didn't happen. And then the second year, it was still kind of during that time where they didn't really want people in close proximity.
Right.
So last year was our first camp that we had, and it's called Extraordinary Lobos, and Danny titles it's for individuals with different abilities.
I love it.
I mean, everybody has, something. And so, and it's really for anybody. And so everybody comes, and it's just this great one-day camp, and Chick-fil-A sponsors and provides all the food for everybody. It's a really, really neat camp. And so we did it last year, and then we did it again this year.
I couldn't love this more. And I know the listeners know that about Landry. That just makes my heart so happy to hear that you're doing that. I love it. How did you get the word out to that community?
Just so I, everywhere I go, I end up getting really plugged into the Down syndrome community. And then from there, it spreads on social media because, like I said, it's not, it could be, individuals with autism. We have an individual that's a totally typically developing individual who is in a wheelchair, and he's come out for it. And so, which is really nice because we have it in our indoor practice facility, and it's turf. And so he goes in his wheelchair and does all of the same drills that everybody else is doing. And so we get a really good turnout. It's neat. And one of our local screen printing companies donates the shirts. We come up with the logo, we came up with the design of it, and he put it on the shirts, and it's really cool. It's fun. Yeah.
Were some of your current teammates, were the team, were some of them involved in the camp at all?
All of them. All of them. And they, I think, get more out of it and are more excited than the individuals that, are participating. It is really, really fun. It's a neat camp. Yeah.
That is special. I don't know if I've heard of anyone doing a type of camp like that.
I don't know.
No
either. I don't.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
said, I
love this more.
That Christian, I think his dad's name's Ed McCaffrey, right? I think he was I think he played for the Broncos. I don't really remember, but I just had heard something about it and kind of did a little bit of research, and theirs is like a big to do, up in Colorado. And I think it's like a week-long camp, but
I hadn't heard of another head football coach doing this. That's really, really, really special. And so you bring up your daughter. When you think about moving and some of the things that you've had to go through and setting up new school, some of the needs and, relocating, getting connected to the community, what are some of those tips and things that stand out to you that have worked for you as you've transitioned your children and with her?
Well, that's the positive, I guess, to social media, right? So that at least you can kind of go and get plugged in, and I can search for, the local community, the Down syndrome community everywhere I've gone. That was a big thing. So we're at San Diego State, which is where we had Abby. And I mean, I had to really, really fight hard. I'm trying to think of how old she was. I think she was 3, maybe turning 4. We had to fight so hard to get them to, so in San Diego, you have a child with a disability, and automatically they want to put them in a special day class. That's what they call it. And I said, no, why? Why would we do that? And I said, this is preschool, for goodness sake. I'm not asking you to put her in, my son's AP Calc class, preschool.
Right.
Nope. They fought it. And we had to really, really fight and go back and meet. And we finally got them to agree that she belonged in a typically, in a regular gen ed class with her typically developing peers. I mean, research has shown that those typically developing peers are going to learn just as much, if not more, from Abby as Abby is going to learn from them. And this is the real world, right? We're not all everybody has different qualities. Everybody has different, gifts. And, I want people to know that they can hire Abby one day. And I want Abby to know that she's going to be working and contributing to the community that she's living in. This is the real world. And so we fought hard in San Diego, and maybe, I don't know, 3 months later, he got the job at ASU. Wow. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do this all over again.
Yeah.
And so I kind of got on social media, and I found some schools that said they were willing, and I called, and we did not, since that fight in San Diego, we have not had a fight. So we went to Arizona. It was wonderful. We were there for 2 years. It was fantastic. And then we came here, and the unfortunate thing about being here has been COVID. So that kind of threw things, because everybody was online, and that wasn't going to work for her. But since then we've been back and going strong, and it's been good.
Wow. What a story
Isn't that
of how to
crazy?
be an advocate. I mean,
Yeah.
And then you do feel that stress of fear of like, am I about to have to go through this again? And then you
Right.
had to go through it one more time. That's a lot to carry a little bit, that's you have to be strong. Yeah. How do you handle that when and for us, I'm also a mom with a daughter with special abilities. That's a fear, right? Of having to set this up again or things like that. But then I have learned, and you've probably learned this, that everybody has something a challenge of some sort that they have that they face through the process. So how do you handle those emotions?
I don't know. We have, like I said, we have a strong faith, and I just know that he's going to take care of us, and I throw caution to the wind and we go. We don't wait. The first, when Danny went to Arizona, we left at spring break. He left in January, I think.
Right.
January-ish. And then we left in late February, maybe early March. And then coming here to New Mexico, same thing. Initially, Chloe, our 11-year-old, said, do you think I can finish up the school year? And so we talked about it, and I said, I told Danny, like, let's just see how it goes. Like, she really wants to finish up the school year. I feel bad moving her.
I know.
And so he said, all right, like, we can see. And it's close, it's only a 6-hour drive from Tempe, where we were living, to Albuquerque. Mm-hmm. So I said, we'll make the most of it. Let's just see. And oh, heck, it was like, I don't even think a month later. And she was like, I really miss Daddy and I want to move. I'm like, okay. I'm like, no. So we put the house on the market and it sold the first day, and we moved. And thank goodness we did when we did, because then COVID happened. And, because they came here, they were in school for 3 weeks and then sent home for the year. Yeah. But
I have found, and this is, everybody's situation is different, but I have found for us, almost like rip the Band-Aid off, go ahead and move with Dad. That way that they have this summer not to kind of freak out about who they're going to have one single friend when I go into school in August. They would have at least met somebody for a few weeks, maybe be on some sports teams in the local area. And then it's not, but that's just what it's been like for us. I mean, it sounds like you're doing the same thing.
Yep. And that's usually, if I have advice for coach wives, I usually say that. I'm like, I would move. Just move when he moves, just sell the house, get whatever you need organized, and go. It does. I think, like you said, you get there, they get plugged in, they meet a handful of friends, maybe even, the good thing for us, this was funny, when we moved to Arizona, we got there, and the very next day she went to school. Chloe, Abby was still I think Abby was in preschool still. And so, but Chloe went the very next day, went to school. And so the next week, pick her up from school, we're at home, we're unloading the truck and kind of getting stuff. And one of the neighbors says, oh, there's a little girl that lives right around the corner, 2 houses over. And so I said, Chloe, do you want to walk over there and introduce, ourselves? And she says, yeah. So we walk over and we knock on the door, and the door opens, and this little girl goes, hi, Chloe. And Chloe's like, hey, Maya. They were in the same class.
Oh my goodness. How perfect is that?
And they became really good friends the 2 years that we were there. So.
Wow. That is perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
You seem like you have a very steady way about you, like a calm way of, you're not going to get drug into, or I don't know if that's right, dragged into, I don't know. I'm Southern. I'm messing up all my subject verb agreement here, but that you're not going to let yourself freak out over something too much. Pull it back to the steady, walk in peace instead of panic. But, this business is not easy for that.
No.
Such high highs and such low lows. I mean, we're still judged on wins and losses, and then they feel when they're winning, it's good. And when it's not, it's really hard. Mm-hmm. So what do you say in those moments? You're probably the sounding board at home. What are some of your things that you do to keep Coach encouraged on the days that aren't so flowery and happy?
Fortunately for us, we've had success everywhere we've been. So this is, like I said, going into year 4 here at University of New Mexico, and we have had a rough go of it. but he knew that from the get-go. When we first started talking about taking this job, he had said, it's not easy to win there. It's going to be it's going to take a few years before we'll see some progress. And I was like, well, it's up to you, whatever you want, I'm on board. And so when we got here, year one, COVID, our governor didn't let us play here in our state. So they actually left and went to Las Vegas. UNLV had just started playing at the Raiders facility. And so Danny and staff and team, they all went and stayed at a hotel in Henderson, Nevada, and played all of their home games at UNLV's old stadium. So he was gone the entire football season. They kind of lived in this little bubble. They tried not to, obviously get COVID. And I will say it worked because they did not get COVID the whole time. Yeah.
My goodness. So I forgot about this. Everyone was living in our own world and our own.
Right.
I forgot that you were living, your team was living up. They lived in a hotel the whole time. He didn't really come back and forth. They were doing virtual classes and everything.
The whole time. Yep.
Wow. How hard was that for a family?
Oh, it was brutal. Brutal. That was the worst part. We were building a house. We had just started building a house, which don't recommend you ever do that during a pandemic. But so we were just, building the house. I was with the girls and there was no school, it was crazy time. But and at once, and again, like Vegas isn't that far. And so I thought, we were losing and it was a rough season. And there was one game in particular, and I wanted to drive out there, and I told the girls, I'm like, let's drive out there. I just want to see Daddy. I just want to hug him, and we'll stay the night at the hotel with him, and then we're going to come home. And Chloe is the ultimate rule follower, and she was like, well, if we go, it's leaving the state, and we'll have to, we're going to have to be quarantined for 2 weeks. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Chloe. I said, nobody needs to know that we're going. I just want to see Daddy. And she was like, makes me really nervous. And I'm like, would you rather not go? And she was like, I don't think we should. And I'm like, okay. So we didn't go. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was awful. I ended up flying by myself for the very last game because, after that they were all coming home. So I was like,
right.
So I did play, and I went to the last game, and we won. We won the last 2 games of the
season. There you go.
Fantastic. Wow. Yeah. And so it's been rough. So back to your original question. I think, we always just discuss. Number one, Danny does not bring it home ever. Like if you see him on Sunday, you will not know whether we won or lost or what you just don't know. He's very even keeled. He just doesn't bring work home like that, and which is great. So we don't see him in a bad mood ever. And, but when he and I talk and the girls are in bed, we talk about it, and we always remind ourselves of his original, we said it was going to take 3 or 4 years before we would see, some progress. And then nobody knew about NIL and the transfer portal. And that, threw a whole nother curveball into the equation. So,
It does. It really does. And to bring up that point, which is making sure we keep our current rosters knowing what kind of value they have, and like that just we're grateful for them even more so. I mean, we've always been grateful for them, but I think that there's even more intentionality to make sure that they feel that.
For sure.
I mean, do you guys do, obviously you probably have them over to eat. What are some of those things you do to help them and to affirm them?
Like me and the girls are around all the time. So they have big relationships, and it's funny because they all just gravitate to Abby. Like they love Abby. And so, we just kind of make them as much of a part of our family as we can. And I've done this, from day one. I've always told, like during recruiting, I always tell the parents, like, I promise you this, your son will never spend a holiday alone unless it's by choice. Like if they can't make it back, like Thanksgiving, for instance, Thanksgiving is usually right in dead smack in the middle of our season. So Thanksgiving's always tricky. And so we always open our house that I don't want anybody to spend Thanksgiving alone. And so a lot of families, open their doors to our players, but I want them to know that they can come here also. And then we have them over. Like they were just here on Wednesday. We had a big pool party, barbecue, and we have a basketball court here. So they have a lot of fun.
Do you do any cooking for the players?
Oh gosh, I try not to. There's way too many for me to cook for. Luckily, we have a really nice man that comes over and he does all the grilling when we have the whole team over. He's like, call me anytime. And so he backs into the side of our property and has a big grill on his trailer, and he makes burgers and he makes everything for them. And it's wonderful.
That's perfect.
What I do usually for them is the cookies. Like I do a lot of baking.
Okay. So what are your favorite types of cookies to make?
Oh gosh. Well, Brookies seem to be the big, everybody loves those darn things and they're so good.
They are good. So that's more like a chocolate chip brownie, is that right?
Yes. Yep. It's like a brownie with a chocolate chip intertwined in it. Yeah. Oh my gosh, they're good.
They are good. College football players love those.
They do.
Don't they?
They do. They love them.
Really connects with them. I've seen those are good. How many pans do you make if someone's?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. A ton. Well, we have 115 players, so and usually I'll make like the bigger. They're pretty good size. So, and then before the season, I always make them. And I don't make them. I have a cookie girl here in town that has ridiculous talents, and she makes them like a jersey, and it has their name and their number on it. So I have to wait, obviously, until it gets closer to, because they're always trying to switch their numbers up on me. I'm like, you cannot switch the number. I already have my cookie order in. But,
that's the truth, isn't it? The things that other people don't think about. They're like, I've already ordered this.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so funny. So how do you guys stay connected, especially during the season? I mean, during the summertime, I'm sure you take a little time off, get away. But during the season, I mean, he's gone a lot, especially
a lot
living away. Mm-hmm. But when he's there, how do you stay connected?
Going to eat with him, I guess. We try and go as often as I can. I go all the time. So I don't work anymore. I'm a dental hygienist, like I said, but I haven't worked since we had Chloe, I stopped working. Still have my license, but I just haven't had to go back, and I love being home with the kids and they like having me home. So it's been good. But I go to a lot of the practices, as many as I can go to. I go to eat with him if I can. Me and the girls are there quite often. We go to church every Sunday. That's kind of a given. He gives the coaches time to go to church Sunday morning, and then they usually meet a little bit later in the afternoon. So,
and then when you get time alone, and it's very important with the amount of things that you're doing, and how do you take care of yourself?
Oh gosh. Well, I don't know. I mean, like, what's fun for me is I love golf.
You get downtime?
I love golf. I'm a golfer.
Really?
I do.
How long have you played golf?
Probably. Well, I started playing. Gosh, before I met Danny, I started playing. I was never very good. I'm still not really good, but I like to play. We play a lot, and then our daughter Chloe is really good, so she's getting to be where she's better than I am.
Nice.
But yeah, we have a lot of fun with golf as a family.
That's awesome. Okay, give me your favorite couple of memories all time of being a coach's wife.
Okay, let me think. I'll give you one from each place. So when we were at San Diego State, we did a little wives wine tasting on horseback through Temecula.
Oh, wow.
That was fun.
That's fun.
It was very fun, except I had just had Chloe, and so I hadn't been drinking, obviously, in over a year. And, I don't drink much to begin with. So a couple of glasses of wine on horseback, by the end of it, I was like, please, dear God, do not let me fall off this horse. But it was so much fun, and we had a blast. It was really a cool thing to do. That was fun. And when we were at ASU, I think one of my favorite things was we at Christmas, we adopted a family. Our football team adopted a family, and we all, gave gifts it was a large family. I think there was like 6 or 7 kids in this family. And so it was very rewarding. And, the girls went with me, and we picked out gifts for some of the kids in the family. And that was I like that we did that. I mean, that's something I would like to do here. We haven't, but I would love to give back to the community in that way. And then here, we do a lot. We do a lot with the wives. I don't know what a favorite is. I mean, I love our dinners and our lunches to celebrate birthdays. I think that's a lot of fun. And then we do a wives trip, and that's always a lot of fun too. Our wives trip is fun.
Those are the best. Okay. Yeah. Rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Oh, no.
What's the last book you read?
Okay, go ahead.
What's the last book you have read?
Oh, I just read a book in Mexico. We just got back from Mexico. It was Colleen Hoover. What was the name of the book? Maybe Someday. I think it was called Maybe Someday. It was good.
Okay. Do you recommend?
Yes, I do.
Coach surprises you, walks in the door with concert tickets. What would be printed on that ticket?
Funny. So we were just at Media Days in Vegas last week, and he did surprise me with concert tickets to go see Garth. We saw Garth Brooks.
Nice. Yeah. There you go.
Oh, I'm talking hands down the best concert I've been to.
I have heard that he is the best.
Yeah, his voice is ridiculous. His energy is insane. It was a great concert. It was at Caesar's Palace, and the venue is small, and so there's not a bad seat in that place. It was good. It was a fun concert.
Incredible. If you could have dinner with someone other than family, current or from history, who would that be?
Oh, Jesus.
Love it.
Yeah.
You get a night alone. What show would you binge watch? And your last answer, is it going to shape this answer, right?
No, probably not. Yellowstone, or one of the Yellowstone, spinoffs. We love that.
Oh, fun stuff.
Yeah.
All right. What's your go-to meal to cook?
Tacos.
Oh, I love tacos.
Yeah. So does my husband.
Okay. I might know the answer to this. What sport can you beat Coach Gonzales in?
I have beat him in golf, but only one time. And that's all I needed to die a happy woman, because that man is so competitive in everything we do, in everything. This is a funny. So I grew up with the ping pong table. So I was really good in ping pong. We get to Tempe. We had a pool table at our house. And so I bought one of those covers that goes over your pool table. It's a ping pong table. Well, I destroyed him, early on. I was so much better than him, and it drove him crazy. So much so that every night after dinner, he's like, okay, let's play. It was like Forrest Gump playing ping pong. Like, he played all the time. He was determined to beat me. We stayed up one night until like 2:00 in the morning, because he's like, I would be like 11-21. And then it was like 13-21. And then it was like 14. So he was just like, one more game. And I'm like, babe, it is 2. I'm tired. He was like, I'm getting so close. I know I'm going to beat you. And he was like, and if you let me beat you, we're still going to play. He can probably beat me now. 9 out of 10 times he'll beat me in ping pong, because he's played that much to make sure that he can beat me.
I love it. This is hysterical. I love ping pong.
Oh, do you? I do
yes,
too.
That is too much. That is awesome. Just shows his competitive edge.
Oh gosh, in everything. Yes.
And final question for you. What do you think makes him great that maybe others wouldn't see?
Oh, his loyalty. He is so loyal to where he is. He is in that moment, always just very present. He's very present. He has a big heart. It's for him, it's, obviously wins and losses, right? That's what keeps us employed. But at the end of the day, like, he wants these young men to be good fathers, good husbands. And that's why he likes us around too. Because he was like, I want them to see, I want them to see me be a husband to you. And I want them to see me be a father to our kids. And he's wonderful.
Love it. Thank you so much for your time. And we'll continue to track your success. I appreciate you being on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This podcast is brought to you by Ruler of Hope. Ruler of Hope is a nonprofit that supports medically fragile children. If you'd like to make a tax-deductible donation, You can use Venmo at Ruler-Hope or online at rulerofhope.org.
For a replay of this episode or previous episodes, visit coacheswifelife.org and follow us on social media at Coaches Wife Life.